All right, so first up, we've got Nicholas Johnson from Orlando. Wah, wah. Let's just do this. We get a small din in here. There we go. Okay, so what do I need to improve on? What to keep / lose, and hard / nitpick if you can. All right. So you want to be your role goal is you want to be an environment artist. And what I'm seeing right now is you've got 2 environments, which is really good. I usually assume that people are not reorganizing their posts. So like far right is like the oldest stuff and far left is the more recent. That being said, I mean, people do reorganize their stuff, so sometimes when I click on these I'll notice it. So this is 2 years old. Oh, that's some nice roughness information going on there. Nothing is more important than like getting some nice details in your roughness. Max K2, how you doing? So let's keep going here. There's some stuff to, I mean, this is 2 years ago, so you probably know this already, but these extra loops in here, you probably don't need these ones, right? You can, like this pinching that's happening here, you can probably terminate it somewhere around here. And then all these extra loops you don't have to, you wouldn't have to pay for. This is your reference, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, it's seen the battle. What's up, Ben? How you doing? Okay, dude, it's so warm in here. Is my fan on? Hang on. It is, and it can't blow air hard enough at me. It's so warm in here. So, I would suggest maybe removing these 2. Let's see. So it's a year ago as well. So when you're making 3D art, right, and you start getting into 3D, assets like this are a very clear moment as to when you were trying to replicate specific materials and really kind of get the look of the thing you're trying to build. So for example, boat shoes, right? So they're pretty clean. You're just trying to get the surfaces right. This is actually how I would suggest people are initially approaching their models when they're just trying to focus on modeling and they're just getting the base information for the details of the surfaces that they're trying to portray. And it's after that, that's when you start to transition into more like, okay, maybe I need to like either building your low polys or getting the material work first. You can choose between the 2 because both of those are going to benefit you when you're trying to push towards making 3D art for games, right? But this one just kind of shows that you're getting into it versus like showing that you're understanding how the materials kind of break down and age as you use these boat shoes, for example. So these 2, for example, this one's actually showing a lot more character when it comes to the surface information. So it's very strange that these ones are so clean. I guess maybe because they're so new. So if I had to nitpick, I would probably remove this one if you wanted to stay at 5 posts. And if you don't mind, I would just remove both of these and just focus on these 4 here. Now let's look at this guy really quick here. So this one's really cool because you've got branding on here. I'm not sure if you authored the branding yourself. One thing I continue to see, this is 2 years old as well. So you are reorganizing your content. So this one's older than this one. This one's older than this one. One thing I'm noticing is you have a lot of extra geometry that doesn't need to be there necessarily. And maybe it's because you're using it for things I'm not seeing, but I'm going to assume that it's just because you hadn't removed it. So like the Titan band here, right? You can take these 2 verts and just connect it to this corner. There's a loop there that doesn't need to be there. This loop, these loops here. So any information, like people always ask how high poly should, like, what's the poly count this thing should be? And my answer and your answer should always be enough to get the detail to look right in a silhouette or up close. Like, And when I say up close, like you can see there's a little bit of a lip change here as you go from the side to this panel. That's nice. But like up close, you're not going to see a difference here, right? You're not going to see a difference here or here. So that geometry is just being paid for, or those edges and vertices are just being paid for no benefit. So keep that in mind. Let's see what else we got going on here. There looks like maybe there's some normal, maybe, let me see if we got the material on here. So the material looks relatively flat in the normal here. So I'm going to assume you have like some type of, somewhere in there, you've got a normal that's changing the subtle direction on a large scale. And you see there's like these dents. It's very soft and they're large scale. You're starting to get some weird effects where like lighting is being affected by it. And I think while this is a good idea, it should be more logical to the panel, right? So if this side right here is its own metal panel, the bending is going to happen most likely in the center here along the entire length of it. And if there is bending elsewhere, it's going to be kind of like on the edge, which you're going to get some more like damaged type of curling happening. But yeah, no, it's all good, man. It's good to see you. How you doing? How you doing, Marsh? But in general, so basically the main takeaways I'm giving is that you have a lot of extra geometry that you don't necessarily need. Like especially this little, I mean, this is pretty small here, but you said nitpicky. So the phone number that's right here, right? You can see geometry-wise you've cut that out, when in reality this could just be a single quad, and that could be a single quad floating in front of it, really close to it, and then you could just map that texture to that quad. It doesn't have to be like airtight, like melted together in that sense. So really important to say that. And geometry that is present but is not actually changing the silhouette at all. Let's see what we got going on here. This one's pretty cool. So this one's showing some age. Oh yeah, Jerice. Jerice is on our recent podcast post. He's a fun guy. Very knowledgeable too, FYI. Okay, so if we look at this, so presentation-wise, the way this is being presented, I would almost put this image next to this one and just do like a side-by-side comparison. Again, you have a lot of geometry that doesn't necessarily need to be there. I wish there was a way to turn those notifications off. I'm sure there is, and I just don't know it. This is great, showing your understanding of like the research, and it's like your R&D or your deep dive into the asset you're about to create, and understanding what's needed in order to like match what you're building. But yeah, I think it really comes down to the extra geometry that is just present, that I don't know if it needs to be there or not. When I scroll up to the top here, the edges are a little sharp, but they're not coming off as sharp. You've got some nice rounding up here. So if I had to say anything, it's maybe like the material that's here and like how this is kind of aging, and then this darkening here, or this lightening edge here, is a little strange. So right now I don't understand what this material is trying to be, which usually has to do with the roughness information. If the roughness is not matching what you see in real life, your brain has a hard time identifying what type of surface that is. So, all right, but let's look at these environments. So these look pretty good. These look really nice. Took reference from a train station I visited in California, tried to recreate it in the aspects of station for an Unreal environment. I wonder if you made the trees yourself, or are they from like a, let's see, we'll just keep scrolling down here. Okay. So I'm going to assume you made all of this stuff. So I think my gut reaction is going to be on making sure that texel density wise, these feel strange to me, but maybe I'm just being crazy, or like the way they end from here to here. And then normal wise, they feel quite weak, The other problem though is looking at the shadows. The sun's coming down, so it's more like a noon time. And noon time is pretty rough for normal maps, right? You're basically going to get the least amount of information from your normal at like the noon o'clock. The noon o'clock, you know what I'm saying? So these are going to look really, the material wise are going to look quite flat. I would shoot for more of like maybe like a 2 or 3 o'clock. You modeled everything for this. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I have to assume that, right? But at this point in time, everyone can kind of download and share assets for free. So it's hard to tell sometimes. But I'm just going to assume because you didn't mention it, you made all of it. Lighting-wise, I do like the detail of the shadows being the way that they are. I like shadows coming from trees. It would be nice if it was a little bit more diffused and just maybe like changing the direction, like the angle of the lighting so that you get a little bit more of like a directional light. But overall, it's pretty cool. Think about like how stuff meets the ground and what you expect to see around these edges. Scale of things is really important. I actually really like the ceiling here. If you think about it, a lot of the times when people are making 3D art, they're not really sure what to put on the ceiling, and the ceiling tends to look really blank for no reason. And maybe in real life, depending on the space, it is quite blank. But it's trying to fill that space up while making it not draw attention to itself. That's kind of the harder part, right? And I think by the way that you've got this, like, I don't know, I guess you would say like a corrugated metal paneling, and then the lights that are like across it, the reason you've got this detail is because it's in the reference, right? So definitely always be looking at reference. What's up, Tom? How you doing? Last thing I think I would say is maybe like the tiling on the ground here seems a little low. This feels more like dirt and not so much like a concrete, or like a concrete that's been poured. Train tracks feel a little on the tiley side. There's something you could build up in here, even if it's just a value shift, just so it's not just this solid color here would be good. What's up, Sid? But yeah, I think that's all I have to say on this piece. If we look at this one, we'll just do this. I'm gonna lower the. So be super careful that your camera is moving from the beginning. Instead of like it's still and then it starts to move. Usually it just feels a little odd, but I guess if you're just panning around, maybe it's okay. Yeah, this is definitely some NYC stuff going on here. I know those chairs. Litter stops here because it's a trash can. Yeah, there's a bit of grime on the bottom edge here. I think just getting some variety and a lot of the variety doesn't even have to be visually in the albedo grime, right? It can be in the roughness. You can get that breakup. I'm noticing a pattern too. I see Bioshock here, and I see, I think it was in this one, I saw the Rapture here. Someone's a fan. I can feel it. Oops. The overall look of this is pretty nice. There's some areas where it's a little low poly and you have to really pay attention to like where things clip. Like if this is going to clip here, you just bring it in a little bit. Yeah. It's nice with the puddles and stuff here as well. Just make sure they're in areas where it's easier to explain. And having the barrels and stuff down in here feels a little forced. What's the other thing I could say? The trash that's down here is quite bright by comparison to the ground. I would probably expect the ground to be a little bit lighter and then the trash to be a little bit darker so that you can really kind of like lock those together. So it's natural noise that's building up where you would expect it versus like a contrast that's so different that you're like, what's going on here? The other thing is, let me me hide this really quick. Get Photoshop up. Give me 1 second, guys. Make sure we're good here. All right, cool. So we've got this scene, right? I'm just gonna, what are we doing here? I'm just gonna make this red, and the background, we're just gonna control backspace, and then double click on this layer, and then we're just gonna grab this point here and just bring it up a little bit. So there's not much information that's happening here, so you want to be really careful about real dark pixels. You don't want any black pixels, because this is information that you can't really move around. And I say information you can't move around, it's like when you have a histogram and you want to like bring the brightness up. Maybe you want to adjust this, right, and like tune it. There's nowhere for these pixels to go, so you can't do anything with those pixels. So it's important to know that you need information in there. So yeah. Anyways, hopefully that was a helpful review, and we're gonna hop right in the next one. Yeah, thanks.